daughter is a Star Wars fan, the first thing they're going to ask for are the figures.
The reason they're 3.75 inches tall is because the first mock-up figures that I made were Fisher-Price Adventure People.
Welcome back.
Hello there.
To GFT. Here is a new episode with your host Chris B. Thanks for tuning in. This will be fun. Let's discuss figures and the latest toy run from a galaxy far, far away. Let's dive into the news and what's next in your display. From the Black Series to TVC, from Hasbro to the Kenner Legacy.
Kenner.
3.75 inches, 6 inches tall. Galactic Figure Talk covers it all. Displaying, rearranging the collection. Discussing figures, asking Hasbro for perfection. The thrill of the hunt, filling gaps is the mission. Always on the move, always wanting mint condition.
I have 3 of each. 1 to display, 1 to open, and 1 just in case.
We finally launched 6-inch when I felt the time was right.
Welcome to another episode of GFT, Galactic Figure Talk. My name is Chris B, I'm your host, and on this episode of Galactic Figure Talk, gotta talk about the tariffs, of course, that's on everyone's mind. We're just about less than a week away from Star Wars Celebration, and we are about 1 week away from, Andor Season 2, which is, it's pretty crazy because when I look at the runtimes that has leaked, it seems like we're going to be getting a full Star Wars movie for 4 weeks, every week. And that's kind of crazy. So they're releasing 3 episodes every week starting next Tuesday. So not this coming Tuesday, but the one after that on the 22nd. And then we have 4 weeks of 3 episodes each week. And apparently they're all around 40 minutes, 50 minutes long. So if you add it all up, we're looking at about a runtime which somewhat equals a full feature-length Star Wars movie, which is pretty amazing, really. So we'll see how the show is going to turn out. I know a lot of people liked Season 1 of Andor. You guys know I was not a fan of it at all, but, I'm mildly excited about it. Kind of getting there now. And we'll see how this is all going to tie into Rogue One. So we'll see. But for us Star Wars action figure collectors, what's interesting is obviously Star Wars Celebration and the Hasbro Star Wars panel that's going to take place on Friday. And I don't think it's going to be live streamed, even though they did announce that there will be a live stream Saturday and Sunday, I think, from the show floor. And it could be that there's some, Hasbro interviews maybe mixed into that live stream. I think that's what they've done previously at Star Wars Celebrations. But yeah, it's pretty exciting to see a lot of people already in Japan now. And people are hyped about Star Wars Celebration. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Hasbro's got cooking, and especially because we know that May the 4th is kind of a big Star Wars deal for, merchandise stuff. And how much are they going to reveal at Star Wars Celebration? That's my question. Are they going to save some stuff for May the 4th? So we'll have to wait and see. But again, Friday is not that far away, and that's when we're going to get new announcements for the Black Series and the Vintage Collection, and hopefully also for the Retro line. Now, for Star Wars Celebration, they did announce an exclusive Black Series action figure 2-pack, but they did not announce anything for the Vintage Collection. So the Black Series line is getting a Celebration exclusive, and it's pretty cool looking. And what they did is they're doing a set based on Star Wars Visions with the Ronin and the droid that he had in the first season, in the very first episodes from Star Wars Vision, which really was my favorite episode out of all of them. So this is a very cool looking set. The figures are kept in a black and white kind of style with grayish mixed in. The atmosphere that they communicate with the packaging and also the way the figures look is really cool. It's not something that we've seen before in the Black Series line. So as a one-off, as a Star Wars Celebration Japan exclusive, I think this was done really well. Now, when it comes to the droid, There's a lot of reuse here from R2-D2. I mean, this is basically R2-D2 repainted. It's the same sculptor that we've seen before, except for this time, besides a different paint application, there's a hat on top of the dome, and there's some additional cables around the feet. But other than that, this looks straight up like an R2-D2. But the thing is, though, that the figure is called R5D56 on the packaging, but this is obviously an R2 sculpt and not an R5 sculpt. And I went back and I watched the scene again when the droid is introduced in the cartoon or in the animated show, and it's basically impossible to tell what dome is really underneath the hat. Now, there's also a comic book, and I'm unfamiliar with the comic book, and I tried to figure this out, but there's clearly an R5 droid in the comic book. So I'm not sure if this is supposed to be R5 that's in the animated show, or if that's actually supposed to be an R2 droid. I don't know. But obviously, the naming convention with R5 on the packaging is wrong, because this is clearly an R2 dome. So I don't know what's gone wrong here, but somebody should have really caught that, you know? I mean, if you're working on this packaging, you know, I can only imagine just how many people look at this. There's got to be like 10 different people looking at this, and somebody at Hasbro has got to be like, what's going on here? You know? But apparently that was not the case, so we're stuck with this error now. But that should not take away from the way the presentation looks and the figures themselves. I think this is pretty cool looking. So I think retail is around $70 for this. $69.99, so 15,000 yen is what the press release here from Disney says. And it does say here, accompanied by his droid R5D56, the Ronin becomes an unlikely hero to a small forest village when he defends them from a Sith bandit and her crew. Star Wars The Black Series includes 6-inch action figures, vehicles, and roleplay items from the 40-plus year legacy of the Star Wars galaxy, letting fans create galactic scenes with a faithfulness to Star Wars comic books, movies, series, and more. The Star Wars action figure set is detailed to look like the Ronin and R5D56 from Star Wars Visions, comes with 11 accessories, including a lightsaber, staff, 2 rocket thrusters, and 6 droid tools. Display the figures in or out of the window box package with an outer sleeve, a matte finish with embossing and gloss details, and unique watercolor character art. All right, so there you have it. I reached out to Hasbro after I got this and asked them if these will be made available through Hasbro Pulse after the convention, and the PR agency never responded to my email, which is a first. They typically always respond, but not this time. So we'll see. We have to wait and see what's going to happen with this set, but I'm pretty confident that remaining sets of this Black Series set will be sold through Hasbro Pulse. But again, there's no official confirmation for that just yet. All right, so that's it for Star Wars Celebration for now, but I'll be reporting back next weekend once we have all the announcements, once we have the images. I know Fantatrax is going to hold a panel on Sunday morning where they have one of the actresses from Skeleton Crew as a guest on their panel. But of course, you know, they're also going to cover Star Wars action figure news. So I'm looking forward to seeing their coverage. And of course, once I get the press release from Hasbro, you will find all the details also on galacticfigures.com. Now let's talk about store finds real quick, and there's quite a bit of stuff out there. Walmart specifically has gotten in an aisle display with some Black Series figures on it. It has the latest wave with Captain Rex on it in his Phase 1 armor. The Anakin Skywalker from the Ahsoka TV show is on there. Moff Gideon in Dark Trooper armor. The Praetorian Guard from Season 3 of The Mandalorian is also in this wave. I think Cassian Andor and maybe even Krennic is also supposed to be in this wave, even though those are the 2 figures that I have not come across yet locally here at Walmart. Now, Commander Cody, which is a Walmart exclusive, is also showing up on shelves at some of the Walmart stores. This is the one that's tribute packaging to the toy line, or the 3¾ inch toy line from 2005. So it comes with the cool rounded shell on the packaging. Some people love the packaging, some hate it. I was never a fan of the packaging, the way they stack, because they're round, you can't really stack them, but the look is pretty cool. You know, like the colors really pop, and I think this is a cool tribute to Revenge of the Sith. So that figure is also showing up at Walmart stores. Now, most of those figures that I just mentioned, they are up on galacticfigures.com if you want to read up about them, find out what's different about them in comparison to their previous releases, high-risk pictures, the accessory guide. It's all up on galacticfigures.com if you want to check that out. Now, the latest wave of vintage collection figures is now about to ship from Amazon. That includes the E-Wing pilot, Dr. Evazan, Aura Singh, and the Snowtrooper is also just about to ship from Amazon. So that's really cool. Gamestop apparently has also gotten in some of the latest vintage collection figures, including Sabine and the Howler creature. I checked one of my local GameStop stores, but they had not put anything new out yet. But if you have a GameStop that's not too far from you and you want to check to see if they have anything new, might be worth heading out to see what they got. Now, the Black Series Luminara Unduli figure from Attack of the Clones is currently in stock on Amazon. That's not a figure that I've seen a lot of anywhere posted online, so they must have just gotten that in, but it is in stock currently on Amazon. So check the podcast description for a link to Amazon if you want to pick that figure up. There's also an yet to be announced Black Series figure that's already on store shelves in Canada, and that's the Black Series Range Trooper based on the Andor TV series. That's a figure that has not been announced yet by Hasbro. I kind of expect this to be a Target exclusive here in the United States for Easter. And I bet you anything that Target, is going to announce this in the coming days, maybe even this week leading up to Star Wars Celebration. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be an Easter exclusive, but I'm just guessing, but I think that's what it's going to be. As far as the Range Trooper goes, it does look like a lot of reuse from the figure that came out in the Solo line back in 2016, 2017, something like that. That figure, though, had these gravity boots, which this new version here in Andor packaging does not have. So this figure has different boots. But other than that, it looks to be basically identical. But I have not seen any pictures yet of somebody who has done a comparison of those. So yeah, when it comes to Star Wars action figures, it's pretty lively right now because a lot of the stuff is shipping from a variety of different sources. So like again, GameStop seems to have gotten some stuff in. Amazon is just about to ship stuff. Walmart has their aisle display. And then also I got this email from Disney saying that they are promoting May the 4th every week leading up to the May the 4th. So every Friday they have a new merchandise drop. And there was a leak, or I think actually Fantatrax went to an event in London where they showed a new Droid 4-pack based on the Book of Boba Fett. And that's a 4-pack of Droid Factory 3¾ inch figures, which has gotten a lot of positive responses from what I could tell. People are excited to get new characters, and getting 4 new droids this way is most excellent. So yeah, lots of stuff happening when it comes to Star Wars action figures. There's also a Pride droid which leaked on eBay. There's another leak on eBay of a Snowtrooper Troop Builder 4-pack, which Hasbro has not announced yet. So don't get too many of these single-carded Snowtroopers. If you want to save a little bit of money, you can probably pick up the 4-pack of Snowtroopers and build your army that way. So again, there is just a lot of stuff happening right now. And I think that once we have the panel at Star Wars Celebration, we'll have a better overview of what's really coming. But again, it is very busy right now. It's almost like the calm before the storm is just about to be over, and there is just a lot of news and figures are going to be dropped on us. And of course, with the amount of stuff coming out, it also gets me to the pricing. And we have seen a price increase already. So vintage collection figures jumped by a whopping $2 at most online retailers. So Entertainment Earth, for example, has basic TVC figures now listed at $18.99 plus tax. So that's $20 right there. Big Bad Toy Store is even more expensive. I think they have vintage collection figures $1 more now than Entertainment Earth at $19.99. GameStop also raised their prices to $18.99 for new TVC figures. And the only two places that have kind of stayed the same, one is Hasbro Pulse that still has them for $16.99, and Amazon also still has figures for $16.99. Now for Black Series, the figures have not jumped by $2, they've jumped by $3 apparently. And the going price now, instead of $24.99, is $27.99, so $28 plus tax. Again, you're looking at $30 now for one Black Series figure. I've seen the prices raised for the deluxe figures in the Black Series line as well on Amazon. So Amazon, for example, has the Black Series Deluxe SM33 from the Skeleton Crew, so the pirate droid. Deluxe figures used to be $33.99. Amazon now has them listed at $36.99. So you add tax on top of that, you are looking at $40 for one Black Series figure. There you have it. I mean, let me just check Hasbro Pulse real quick, because I haven't been on their website for a few days. Yeah, and looking at Hasbro Pulse, they have not raised their prices yet. So I see SM33, for example, is $33.99, so $3 cheaper than on Amazon now. And all the Black Series figures that they have are still $24.99. So yeah, just a matter of time until they are going to raise their prices. Let me check Entertainment Earth real quick to see what Black Series is like there now. Yeah, and they have raised their prices as well. So SM33, for example, is $38.99 now at Entertainment Earth. So there's definitely a markup for the deluxe line and for basic Black Series figures. Now, I think when it comes to the tariffs, I mean, you know, the one word that I think sums everything up right now is uncertainty. Nobody knows how long this trade war is going to last. Nobody knows what the outcome is going to be. But just from experience, I mean, it's really, really rare that prices come back down, right? And I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know, I've been saying that this is the death spiral. You know, it's just kind of getting less and less and less. And that was like way before the tariffs hit and all of that. So I think this hobby is getting more and more niche, and the tariffs are going to speed this all up. I think we're looking at 125% tariffs now, and toys are not excluded from any of this. And so, I mean, who is going to swallow that cost? Now the question is, what is Hasbro going to do? You know, are they going to wait now with HasLabs to see how this all is going to play out? Are they just going to increase the price right away to just kind of accommodate the 125% tariff? Is it going to be a mix of things where they're going to swallow parts of the increase and parts of it will have to be swallowed up by the consumer? We don't know yet how this is all going to play out, so we'll just have to wait and see. But, I mean, it's not good, you guys, you know? And I think the result of all of this is just going to be that it's going to get less and less and less. And it's also going to get more and more expensive. And at what point are people going to say that it's just not enough fun anymore for them to just be invested in this kind of hobby? You know? And I think the trajectory that we're on is that it's just going to get less and less and less. And the prices, as a result, are going to go further up on top of that. And I think more and more people are going to jump ship over time. And I think that's basically where we're heading. Now, I know that Hasbro has been trying to diversify their manufacturing portfolio for many years now. I think that the Vietnam imprint on the figures, the first time I saw them was on the 5 POA toy line. It was either for the Rogue One line or the Last Jedi toy line. I don't remember now, but it was one of those, I think. So it goes back to around 2016, 17 or so. I want to say that I, for the first time, noticed that Hasbro was making Star Wars figures outside of China. But when you look at the imprints that the latest Black Series figures have, for example, those all have the China imprint on them. I also remember Chris Reif specifically mentioning flying to China to check on the HasLab Ghost vehicle. So we know that a lot of their stuff is still being manufactured in China. So even if a country like Vietnam, for example, is getting 0 tariffs or just a very minimal increase at that, I think that as long as the US has a trade war with China, the prices will keep going up, I think. It'd be interesting to see that if we actually get Star Wars content that's actually going to deliver for a broad audience, right? I mean, just like The Mandalorian season 1 and 2, I mean, that was basically a miracle that was embraced by a wide majority of people. If they can come out with a Star Wars movie in 2026 with The Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and they hit it out of the park, and everyone loves that movie, I see the demand for toys obviously going up through that. But it would have to really deliver in a big way. And I'm not even sure if that's possible anymore these days with Star Wars. The fandom is just so incredibly divided that I don't know if a movie like that would bring the fandom back together. I don't know if that's possible. So, I mean, really, that's all I have to add to the tariffs. I mean, there's not much that we can really add to this conversation. I think we all agree it's not good for the hobby. Things have already gotten more expensive. TVC by $2, Black Series by $3. And it's a little all over the place which retailer did what, but Big Bad Toy Store is definitely on the expensive side now. Entertainment Earth also gotten more expensive. Amazon is kind of hanging in there, but they did raise their prices for the Deluxe Black Series figures, for example. Hasbro Pulse is currently the only one that just kind of kept the prices steady. How much longer? Who knows? So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to stop talking about the tariffs because, again, it's uncertainty. Nobody knows how long this trade war is going to last. Nobody knows what the outcome is going to be. And I think that we just have to focus on the products themselves and what characters Hasbro's making, whether the characters are well done, whether the action figures deliver. I mean, we know at this point that this is not a cheap hobby anymore. We have HasLabs, which are in the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. We have 3 3/4-inch figures, which cost about $20. In some cases, the deluxe figures are $25 or even more now. Black Series collectors, I mean, that's never been cheap, even more expensive now. So collecting Star Wars action figures is not a cheap hobby anymore. At least not the figures which are geared towards the collectors. Now, the retro line, I hope that's going to stay steady because that's still $10 or $11 a figure, which is nice to see. But of course, you know, the retro line is not for everyone. And that's more for us older folks who kind of grew up with the Kenner stuff in the 70s and the 80s. So yeah, all right, we'll see where this is all going to go. But to wrap things up, and I'm sorry for having been all over the place here in this episode, but I'll be back with another episode of GFT Galactic Figure Talk after Star Wars Celebration Japan, after we know what has been announced at that Hasbro Star Wars panel. And then I'll be happy to put out a new episode and let you guys know what's been announced and my thoughts about those figures. Now, for everything Star Wars action figure related, go to galacticfigures.com, browse over 5,000 figures, check out the accessory guides for the vintage collection, the accessory guide for the Black Series line or the retro collection. Browse figures, check them out, see what figures you're missing in your collection. That's why the website exists, that you can look up figures and learn more about them. All right, so that's where I'm going to wrap up this episode of GFT Galactic Figure Talk. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.